Star Wars Young Jedi Knights Crisis at Crystal Reef Chapter 6. Jaina was surprised at how good it felt to be at the pilot seat of the Rock Dragon once again. Even if they weren't exactly going on a fun trip, the pleasure of being surrounded by her best friends added fuel to the fire of her excitement as they set out on this new adventure. "How's our navigator doing?" she asked, settling herself more comfortably in her seat, anxious to be off. "Perfect," Zeke assured her. "EMTD's got his route and timing for our first stop calculated down by the second. And naturally, I've been very thorough, as I always am with safety's concerned," EMTD preened. "You've come to expect only the best of me, and I should hate for your trust to be misplaced." Jaina chuckled. "Just give us the count, EMTD," Jason urged. "We've got to go find Anja." The little droid made a sound as if clearing its throat. "Prepare for transition to hyperspace in 5, 4, 3, 2... "Punch it, Loey," Jaina said. The ginger-furred co-pilot grumbled with satisfaction as he switched on the hyperdrive engines. Glittering stellar pinpricks exploded into brilliant starlines around them. Jaina couldn't keep the smile of exhilaration off her face. "Isn't this exciting?" "It's a lot more excited if I didn't feel responsible for the situation Anja's in," Jason said. Jaina swiveled in the pilot's seat to give her twin brother a strange look. "Responsible? How? We didn't have anything to do with Anja getting addicted to spice." "Well, if Dad hadn't killed her father, maybe she'd have the parents to teach her right from wrong. She might have gotten herself hooked on Andrus in the first place." Jaina bristled. "I don't believe Dad shot Galandra in the back. No matter what Andrus says, she can't even be sure what happened. It's not if she was there." "Neither were we," Jason pointed out. He sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. "Anyhow, it's not even just Anja I'm worried about. I mean, we're headed to Kessel. I got a bad feeling about this." Loey smoothed the fur in the back of his neck and gave a thoughtful rumble. "Have you sensed something through the Force?" Tenelka asked. Jaina glanced back at her brother. He shrugged. "Not exactly, but Dad and Chewie sure had that hard time of it when they crashed on Kessel years ago." Jaina turned and looked back out the front viewport. "It was hard for them to get away, but that was back when the spice miners were a slave pit. Dad reminds us that whenever he gets a chance that Lando and Uncle Luke had disguised themselves in order to sneak in and help him and Chewie escape." She bit her lower lip. "Now that Lando owns the mines, though, we shouldn't need to worry about anything." "It's still not a place I'd like to go for vacation," Zeke muttered. "Hey, don't worry about it too much," Jason said. "I told you. I didn't really sense anything through the Force. I'd just be extra careful when we land there." Jaina nodded, but a frown of concern still wrinkled her brow. "Such caution would be sensible," Tenelka agreed. Once the Rock Dragon had landed near the Spice Mines administrative office on Kessel, a thin and dour-looking administrator arrived to greet them, introducing himself as Second Administrator Kamin. "Your clearances are all in order," he said. "In fact, Master Skywalker himself sent a message asking for cooperation in your mission, whatever it is. I'm to conduct you directly to the Chief Administrator's office. Nien Nunb is a very busy man." The young Jedi Knights followed the sour-faced man. Jason looked around at the bleak landscape and felt the barest hint of a tingle along the back of his neck. So faint he didn't think it could possibly be a warning through the Force. He scratched the back of his neck and tried to divert his thoughts. "Well, I wouldn't exactly say we're on a mission," Jason told the man. "We're just looking for someone. It wouldn't take much of your time." The dour administrator looked suspiciously at him, but said nothing as they entered the main administrative buildings. When they were finally led into the chief administrator's underground office, mousy little Nien Nunb got up, came around his low desk, and greeted each one of them effusively. Although they did not actually know each other, EMTD prompted translation services, since Nien Numb's basic was difficult to understand. "Master Nien Nunb would like to thank you all for taking the time of the visit. He deems it a great honor to have the relatives of his old friend Han Solo and Chewbacca of Kashyyyk have come to visit, and extends what help he can offer." "Thanks," Jason said. "Maybe if we could look..." Nien Nunb held up a hand for Jason to pause, and turned to the sour-faced administrator and said a few short words in his own language. EMTD continued translating. "Master Nien Nunb says thank you, Second Administrator Kim. He will not require services any further." Kim's lips pressed into a thin, tight line, but he made no argument, and he withdrew. Nien Nunb strode to the doorway, shut the heavy door, and pressed his ear against it for a moment. Then, to all their surprise, he locked the door. The Sullustan Chief Administrator spoke rapidly and spread his hands to indicate the cluster of cushioned repulsor benches to a group to one side of his rock-walled office. "Master Nien Nunb urges you to be seated. Now he's anxious to learn the nature of the business that has brought you all here." The 5 Jedi Knights explained about their search for their Aunt Anja and how they hoped to find her here on Kessel. Neenum put a hand to his chin and shook his broad head while he replied. In translation, EMTD explained that the chief administrator had not seen the lightning rod, and since he had known Old Peckham a good many years, he believed he would have recognized the ship if it had landed anywhere in the main docking domes. He had been very busy and very concerned, however, so he couldn't be so sure. Is it possible he might have managed to sneak past your security screens? Jane asked. Jason frowned at his sister, implying that Anja was trying to do something illegal on Kessel, but Neenum was already answering. In the past, Neenum would have assured you that very little could get past the security screens on Kessel, and he knew of what comings and going on this planet. But in recent months, there have been some small occurrences that have led him to believe that not as all as it seems here. Therefore, he has offered to put on the full resources of Kessel's computer records at your disposal. You may physically search for Mistress Jane if you believe that would be of any use. He only urges you to be extremely cautious. Tenel Ka, always suspicious, sat up straighter. May I inquire what the source of your concern is? The chief administrator opened his small mouth under the drooping folds of skin, closed it, opened it, and closed it again, as if he could not decide exactly what to say. Finally, the story spelled out, and he described the accident from which he had barely escaped with his life. The blast of carbonite and the expected sabotage that cost the life of Torvald, the predecessor of the second administrator, come in. Master Neenub has ordered immediate inspections and implemented new security systems in order to foster the appearance that he has no suspicions anything at all is sinister. The young Jedi Knights looked at each other, just trying to decide how dangerous the spice mines might really be. EMT went on. He does not wish anyone to know that he suspects treachery, and no longer certain which employees he can trust. As of yet, however, he has no solid proof. Therefore, in return for his assistance in helping you with your search for Anja, he requests that you remain alert to any signs of illegal activity, danger, or deceit. Tenel Ka gave a short nod, and her warrior braids swayed over her shoulders. From the corner of his eye, Jason saw Zeke's hand go to the hilt of his newly constructed lightsaber. Jason nodded, acknowledging the gravity of the situation. Sure, we can do that.